Welcome back to the Hishaku Hideout, a weekly podcast where we talk about the latest chapter and everything Kagurabachi. I'm here with Dice.
Yo, yo.
And today we're getting into chapter 75. And boy, Hokuzono really know how to start this one up, right? Literally just a two-piece, or so we thought, with Samura using Crow to chop off the two Hishaku members' heads.
Dude, yeah, I'm not gonna lie, my heart dropped for a whole second, because I'm the first thing that went through my head really was damn, he's really about to do Hirohiko and Toto like that. I mean, Toto I was obviously a bit much more indifferent about. We saw her head hit the floor almost instantly, and Hirohiko barely managed to get away with that, unsheathing and the banquet. So for a minute, bro, for a whole minute, I was scared, bro.
And because let's be real, me and you have been pretty big on Hirohiko and his development with the story and all that. So I even remember saying in one video a couple episodes ago, I was like, it's not like Samura's gonna just pop up and no diff everybody. And then when he showed that, I was like, oh shit, he's no different everybody. But Hirohiko came in clutch with the banquet. And by the way, I thought it was so fire how Hokuzono had the two Shikigami type women that is summoned through the Kumiyuri, excuse me, and how they're pouring the sake over the speech bubble, Hirohiko's speech bubble, when he says banquet the second time, when they show that actual illustration of it all. His words are actually, toxic, like a audio genjutsu. I thought that was so gangster.
Yeah, I mean, I would say that page itself is probably the hardest of the whole chapter. Even the panel itself is you look at the line work in the panel and it's all wavy and shit. That is by far the hardest page of the whole chapter. And to be fair, that twist in itself is what kind of carries the chapter for me. You and me were talking before we started recording that, compared to some of the stronger chapters as of recently, or as of late, sorry, we've been kind of spoiled with these last couple of chapters. So this might, for some people, I wouldn't be surprised if it's kind of on that lower end compared to what we've had recently, last 5 to 10 chapters, or since we hit the hotel, really. But to me, the banquet twist is really what kind of carries this chapter and keeps that hot streak going.
Yeah, the reveal of Kumiyuri was definitely he landed the expectations, I guess, if you will. I mean, I don't have any expectations for the enchanted blades. I'm just going to take them as they are. But you want those moments to be impactful and memorable, and it was definitely cool. There is one thing though that I thought was kind of strange, where I mean, it could be nothing, just it just kind of struck me as odd when Hirohiko gets beheaded, and Iori shouts out to Samura, and she says, "Father, I," and then Hirohiko's head is "Oh, father." And then that's when the sword melts and he kind of dissipates. Yeah, it kind of struck me as weird, saying that, oh, that's confirmation, that is his daughter, even though he knew that beforehand. You know what I mean? It just kind of struck me as odd
that Yori is Samura's daughter.
Yeah, Hirohiko, he's oh, father. I could hear him kind of troll. The page where his head's...
Yeah, he's definitely trolling. I hadn't really read into it more than that.
He's ooh, father. Letting him know, yeah, she's the target, bro.
Yeah, oh, okay, I see what you're saying. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, dude, that sequence of events of I can just imagine that animated, bro. I know it's probably going to be a minute, but I can't fucking wait, bro, because it's so eerie. I can just imagine the head turning and the eyes as well. Oh man, and his voice. I just can't wait till that gets animated at some point. because it really
Oh
is
yeah.
like, just like I said, like eerie and, you know, trippy with everything that follows. But I also wanted to, you know, before we kind of move along the chapter, go back really quick and, uh, you know, shout out to Samura, because we were talking about like Banquet and the Kimiyuri, but Toby Mune, right? Am I saying it correctly? It's Toby Mune, right?
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah, okay,
I
Toby Mune.
guess.
Yeah, yeah.
I be butchering them. I be butchering the names all the time.
Toby Mune definitely you know, deserves some credit as well, because I thought like the way the abilities with like the swapping of the feathers and the dancing feathers is how they're called. I thought like that was so cold. And we see here like Samura's really about business, bro. Like even with the seal broken, like he pretty much like ignores Yori. He asks Ro like, yo, what the fuck's going on? The seal broke, like, and like he's just straight to business. And like we see later on is like, or like right here is like, oh, seal broke, we didn't, okay, we'll redo it. Like it's just straight
Like,
to
bro,
business.
who are you? Fuck you. Like, how you gonna tell us what to come in here like all heroic, like the angel of death, and tell us what to do? Fuck you,
dude. And like we see Yori like just frustrated, bro. Like I don't blame her, you know?
Yeah, she's like, hello. She's like, you know, you missed like the last, 3 birthdays.
And then Hirohiko just fucks up that family reunion.
Oh, and the way his ability works, it's like, it's like genjutsu in a sense, and it's going to be interesting to see what the other 2 abilities are of Kumiyuri. But I like Hirohiko's locking in still. Hirohiko is badly damaged. He could say what he wants, but that man took a blade to the torso, you know what I mean, at a crazy speed. And he's still like, I'm gonna get Iori. Like he's like, I'm gonna, make this shit, I'm gonna turn it on its head.
Yeah, bro. He's really that friend that's just like, what is it, like toxically competitive, if you know what I mean. Like he's just that guy, because we even see him later. Like he literally like thinks of like what is it, like a play again game screen, like after losing in a video game, and like that's all he's ever wanted to do. And I do want to go back really quick when you brought up Banquet, because I think it's very interesting how this is essentially, like you said, like the genjutsu type of like the power system, right? This is the first time that we see abilities that essentially like impair senses. And bro, like for this to work on Samura, we have an idea on what level Kumiyuri, and like even more so like Hirohiko with Kumiyuri is at, because like you said, even at the state he's in, right? So I just thought like that's like very important to keep in mind. And I just wanted to give some credit to Hokuzono as well, because the whole warping like of the panels, like that whole effect was just done really well, like really sells the whole like feeling
in 1 week.
Yeah, bro, for sure. And that like that's like we talked a bit about earlier, that's followed by like what I said was the hardest page. So yeah, he couldn't.
Yeah, facts. And the talking about Kumiyuri and its ability, I think that's the first enchanted blade that we see that it basically raises the power or raises the strength of your comrades, because Hirohiko made it to where only like Samura, Iori, and the Masumi, like those guys are feeling the effects. The henchmen aren't feeling the effects. So it's they're fodder, but now they're fodder fighting, a handicapped, like person of our group. And that's one, I'm surprised that we are getting an enchanted blade like that, especially in Hirohiko's hands of all people. He doesn't seem like the type to like raise the levels of everyone else for the sake of like the mission. It's more just like he like you said, competitively toxic.
Yeah,
like it's all for him. But he still gave them a better fighting chance on that roof. And Kaguri's up there. We need to see Kaguri. Like, that's one thing Hokuzono is lacking, in my opinion, is focusing on the geography of the roof. Like, where's everyone at? Who's fighting who? Because it seems like they're just standing in place, but they're supposed to be getting pushed in waves.
Yeah, I can't help but feel like that's not an accident. Like it almost certainly. I wouldn't be surprised to see that something has gone down in the sense of like we cut back to Kaguri and he's killed like one or two of the Masumi members, or or like something crazy like that. Like I wouldn't be surprised if he's kind of holding that as like an ace up his sleeve, because like let's say that we see like Chihiro defeat Hirohiko or something, or like let's say everything goes perfect on like Chihiro's side of things, like cutting back to Kaguri and seeing a bit of a twist on that side after like not having seen him in a minute. I could see how that is perfectly, set up for something, So I don't feel like it's just him like, like just forgetting about
He's keeping his cards close to his chest.
That's what it feels like to me. Yeah.
Yeah, one thing I wanted to mention as well is Chihiro's knowledge of the enchanted blades like comes through in the clutch. Like he has information that is very vital to the this scenario currently unfolding in their world. Look at him with the anti-cloud gouger squad. Unfortunately, Sojo just locked the fuck in. That you couldn't foresee that, but he did give them a strategy that could have, that might have, or put them in a good position to win. Now he knew already when he saw Hirohiko have it to put, use Nishiki to like block his ears so the audio genjutsu doesn't get through and hit him, which allowed him to, tell Samura, hey, you bum, go protect your daughter for once. I'm gonna go, end this shit.
It's crazy how he's telling Samura what to, huh? Like just calling the shots,
yeah,
right? Like
yeah.
just,
No excuses.
like if there's Samura, like I was like, this little, okay, I mean he's not. I thought that was just funny to me,
yeah,
with the sandals.
But I mean, Samura popped right the fuck up though.
Yeah.
And he popped all their heads off. Pause.
Yeah, no, the way like Hokuzono's, this has probably been said a million times since the series started, but he's able to convey movement so well without having to like illustrate like an excess of like lines or like, he's just like the way he conveys movement is so smooth and is ingrained within the art itself. It is just so natural and like seamless. But yeah, man, what you said,
he's special.
Yeah, for sure. I thought what you said about Chihiro is once again why his dynamic with like not just like obviously like each villain, right? Since Sojo, like we saw it with Yura, and now with Hirohiko, it's how he's able to stay like how he's able to stay in the game essentially. And what we see with Hirohiko is once again how he's able to keep up, because Hirohiko catches everybody by surprise with Banquet except Chihiro. And I love what we see from Hirohiko, what we talked a bit about earlier, in the sense of like him just like not giving up, having that competitor spirit. Like he, even when it looks like he's down for the count, like no, he wants to go back out there. He wants the dub. And I do like how it's
put me in, coach.
Yeah, it's that energy. And I do like how we have a little moment between him and Toto where their kind of friendship is implied, in the sense that it seems like there's some history there, with the little text of her saying like how long have they known each other. So it does kind of get me thinking of like what the history there within, or maybe even before the Hishaku look like.
I think the way that Hirohiko is presented is, I think he's presented almost not I don't want to say a child, but like kind of like the adolescence of the Hishaku. Like Yura kind of talks about him almost, kind of like a guardian in some ways, because they're like, oh, Yura lets Hirohiko do what he wants. Here he lets Hirohiko get away with everything. He's too easy. Yeah, and then like
He's the young
Toto's
blood.
here, and I said this back when Toto like summoned him inside the hotel. I was like, man, I wonder if they got a little thing going, but it could just be more of a brother sister thing where they both have been brought up in this environment, because we haven't seen her actually kill anybody, but she's down for the ride. You know what I mean? Like, she's part of the Hishaku, for Christ's sake.
Yeah, no, and whatever that relationship is or looks like, it's definitely like intimate enough, in the sense of like once again,
Connection.
they really know each other, and she really. Yeah, exactly. Like she knows like he can bullshit anybody like with the Hishaku, in the sense of like, no, this is the best chance we're gonna get at the mission. This is the daughter, whatever. But she's like, bro, like I know you. Like this is like that isn't what this is about, is it? And like he doesn't even try to hide it. Like even after that, like he's like, like okay, you know what I'm talking about, and like he just goes right back at it. And that clash with Chihiro is just is good to see, because like I said, for a second there earlier this chapter, I thought, damn, Hirohiko's donezo, but seeing him clash again with Chihiro was just,
Oh yeah, the enchanted blades are
fun to
back in the
see.
story. It's the excitement is automatically raised
Yes,
up. Like, I think we
sir.
took it for granted how dynamic the fighting is, and like the movement, just the paneling when enchanted blades are present. I think we took it for granted because we saw so much of it early on. With Chihiro using it, spamming it, like against the Sojo, like all throughout the Sojo arc. Yeah, so it's nice to see the enchanted blades back in the story. And Dice, there's one thing I didn't, bring up yet. One chapter left. Samura got one chapter left.
You still think so?
Dude, yeah. I was right about the Megami thing, or I was one chapter off about the Megami thing in 266. I'm gonna be
Okay.
one chapter. Watch, I'm gonna be one chapter off again. It's gonna be 2 chapters, and he gets popped. But I'm staying on business. Next chapter, Samura's getting popped, and he
Okay.
might
Yeah.
get intoxicated by like the Kumiyuri abilities, or maybe he might kill somebody. He might kill Ro.
Okay. Okay. Well, let's see. What else is there to discuss with the in this chapter before we can kind of get into theories for the
Oh well, the end.
the end, right? Okay, so we see that Yura. Well, before we kind of get to Yura, let's see, because I think we see Chihiro and Hirohiko clash. We see that Hirohiko is essentially telling Chihiro to not hold back, and Chihiro tells him, like the reason why he didn't go all out before was because he didn't know where the Kamiyuri was. Now that he pretty much has it in front of him, he has no issues killing Hirohiko. Before we kind of get into Yura, kind of to your the whole thing about Samura dying in a couple of chapters, I did expect a bit, like I was surprised that we didn't see anything between him and Yori this chapter. Really, like I said, it was really like Samura all about business, not really to like really kind of face that, right? And the chapter goes back to focusing on Chihiro and Hirohiko. So I do kind of wonder if we're gonna get anything really in depth between the two, or if it's gonna be kind of something tragic, that kind of leaves a lot of things unsaid. And I know you got a theory that you'll probably want to bring up a bit later, but now, like I said, it's just really got me thinking, because will we see that conversation between the two, or will this kind of really end up badly with, like I said, just a lot of things left unsaid? Like, what are your kind of thoughts on that before we head into Yura, or get into Yura?
It could be a situation where, I brought up the Kumiyuri and how it messes with like the senses, which, I mean, Samura might be extra sensitive to that. And we still have 2 more abilities of the Kumiyuri. Um, but I think when it comes to like the handling of Samura, who's gonna die next chapter, and Iori, uh, it might be the situation where there's too much to say and so little time, where Samura is gonna be on his like dying, and he's not gonna be able to get to say everything he wants to say, and that's gonna be his punishment.
Interesting. I can see that.
That. And I think that's the way it's gonna go. Instead of Hokuzono trying to like fit in this like father-daughter moment amongst all the fighting, I believe, because another thing is Kaguri. This is where I think he will pop up against Samura, because he's a notable swordsman. Now Samura is nerfed, and with Yuri present, Kaguri might pose a decent fight. Like obviously he wouldn't be no match for Samura, but he knows about the white purity style. That could be like his objective here, is to keep him busy and maybe Hirohiko get Iori. But I believe it's gonna be like that sort of thing where he's on his deathbed and he's just gonna be a teller, like I don't have much time left. There's so much I want to say, but and he'll finally say like I love you, because he didn't even say it in the note, the bastard, when he got her memories were sealed.
Yeah, I hear you. I hear you. Okay. Yeah, I can see that.
Now moving over to Yura and Tree Boy up in Tokyo.
That Shaku.
I don't like his ass. Yura is dope. I love Yura, and Yura has done barely anything. Like him and his little scrap with Chihiro was dope, but he hasn't done anything of like mass, like grand scale on panel. It's always been like statements or secondhand information. I want to see him do some like ruthless shit. I mean, he may not be that type of villain. He could just be like the planner.
Nah, he definitely gives off some terrorist vibes to me, especially especially at the end of this chapter.
I'm like, I love him. Yeah, like, yeah, dude's a
No,
terrorist.
yeah, dude's a terrorist, bro. I love him too. Don't get me wrong. I love him too for sure. But I think what we
that's our leader.
Yeah, no, for
Hishaku.
sure, man. Respect to the boss, for real. But what do you think? This must be like, this is the beginning of his malediction. It's gotta be, right? What do you think?
Man, that's like Hokuzono has left him so much space to kind of do like go any direction. Like Hiyuki's gonna be there. There's like she's got to be there. She's their strongest fighter.
He ducked
they say
her last time, bro. So she got to pull up because he ducked her last time in the Rakuzaichi arc. Remember? She was so ready for him, bro.
So she's gonna be. Tree Boy is gonna have to hold her off, I imagine. But the thing is, her fire should burn the trees down.
I'd love to see that.
I wonder if how that works, like elemental, the elemental battles with fire and tree, nature and shit. That would be interesting to see. But Shiba is the big question mark, because he doesn't want the Kaminabi to know he's still involved. He doesn't want to, show himself to them, because it could like make things more difficult. And that's kind of like it wasn't suspicious at first, but now it's getting a little bit like Chihiro was in handcuffs, for Christ's sake, in front of the Kaminabi, and he doesn't want to show himself. So in my eyes, he has to show himself here. If he doesn't, they're gonna get the Magatsumi, because that's like the top two guys in the Hishaku right there.
Yeah, it's like right now we'd either need Shiba or fucking Azami to pull up like quick, or that Yoda dude, like.
Well, Azami and Yura's got like the parallels of how both of their introductions were like only to Chihiro specifically. Only like Chihiro was the only one present when he first met them. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like And what they both do, they didn't use any sorcery, and they were whooping ass. I mean, Azami was beating, the fodder guys, and Yura was beating up on Chihiro. But they were both just using amping their bodies and using like the spirit energy to, fight hand to hand. I would love to see Yura and Azami just throw hands like that.
Oh, for sure. And like I think we have yet to see like two heavy hitters on that level like really clash.
No sword. Yeah. No swords, just sorcerers going at it.
For sure. But yeah, like if like or like Hiyuki, like if somebody doesn't pull up, like fucking Yura's up to no good, dude. And like I wouldn't be surprised if this is a fake out. Like I see a lot of people scared that Kagurabachi could be like a much shorter story than what everybody would want it to be. So I'm definitely 50-50 on if this is like the beginning of the malediction. And even if it is, right, like how long is the story going to kind of be stretched out after this, like I just think there's a lot of questions right now as of what this means for the the wider story, really. Because
it could, like, because you like think about it, like, let's just go headcanon real quick, and we won't go deep on this because we'll wrap it up here in a minute or two. But if Yura gets the Magatsumi, say in 2 chapters, 3 chapters, from what we know now, like just like the information we know now, what more is there to do? Like, because everything has been leading up to the Magatsumi, and that's his like objective. He's the big bad so far of the series. So it either would come into play where he is gonna fall short of getting the Magatsumi, and it turns out maybe like the Hishaku guy backstabbed him. Maybe he has a connection to Kenshi, the master swordsman or something. And it's just been like a red herring, like, oh, Yura is related to him. Or, they get repelled by Shiba, Azami, and Hiyuki. Because, I mean, that fighting force is strong with those 3.
That's a big 3 right there. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's only 2 of the Hishaku guys. I mean, we got Hirohiko, Toto, Kaguri at the hotel. That's 3 right there, plus 2. So there's 5 more Hishaku members left unaccounted for, I think.
Yeah.
And it, we still have like the best genus looking dude, but we still gotta get the reveal. And we do still have 2 more swordsmen.
Also,
as well,
like who the mole is, which obviously can just be revealed in a quick chapter or whatever. But the Kamunabi mole.
Man, who do you think it is? Give me 2 people. I'll let you get 2 choices before we wrap it up.
This is a cop out, right? But I don't know. I will say, just to kind of throw a name out there, I was originally like not a fan of the Shiba theory of like Shiba being the mole, but with kind of like him being like again absent for so long in the story, and just with like the things that have been like unfolding, in the recent chapters in terms of the information we have. It's not that has anything to do with him directly, but I've just had like a lot more time to think and, kind of see where pieces might fit. And compared to like a couple of months ago, I can see how this guy could be a double agent, for the Hishaku as well as the Kamunabi, right? Yeah. And like him kind of overseeing Chihiro can just be like the whole, like just play into that, right? And how he's be able to like, like, because you brought up a good point.
Yeah, and you brought Chihiro,
up, you brought up a good point just with the Kamunabi in terms of like how are they letting him really like reign free in terms of like with Chihiro and shit. Like he could be really reporting to them and then kind of duping them and reporting to the Hishaku, right? Like I'm not sure if that's what's going on because they seem to have like a lot of their cards on Samura, but I wouldn't be surprised if that's the case, right? So like to throw a name out there, I will say Shiba, also Azami isn't too far out there. And those are 2 guys that I originally wasn't kind of a fan of. I originally was of the thought that it's one of the fucking guys at the big table, right? But I don't know anymore, man.
Yoda. It could be the Yoda
Very well
dude.
could be, and that would be interesting
Cause,
because he can whoop them
cause
both.
like,
He whoop everybody.
I mean, he's really got like kind of the most real, well, some of the most character moments out of the Kamunabi. A lot of those guys are just like a
True.
face.
Yeah,
We just know the face. But the old guy has history. He knows about everything, like because he talked to Samura about
and
it,
he
so he
brushed it
knows
off.
about everything.
Yeah,
It seems like he was like the confidant for like the enchanted, swordsman. So it could be him, and because he is
and
old
was
too.
he
He
at
is
the signing
old.
of the treaty?
I'm sorry.
Was he at the signing of the
I believe he
treaty?
was. Yeah, he for sure was. He was like in the back, like standing behind, like there was like three guys at like right by the table, and I think he was in like right
Yeah,
behind them.
yeah. So he's been kind of in the background just enough to kind of
Present
be
and present
irrelevant,
for all the big
but
moments.
yeah, but be present exactly without kind of like saying much really, and just kind of like
Being low
just
key.
doing his thing really. Exactly.
Because
Yeah, no, good
you're
call out.
thinking about like this is a 10-year. There's been no, excuse me, not 10 years. There's been the war was like 18 years ago or something like that. So the mole would have to be somebody older, I would assume. Like it, because they know about everything that happened as well. They gave them information about how the contract is tied to the master swordsman. So this is somebody that's been around long enough to earn the trust to get that kind of information, and that was present for that. I don't think Yura gets the Magatsumi in this story. I think he's gonna get backstabbed by the Hatshaku guy, or there's like a bigger play at hand
I'd love
here.
to see that. I'd hate
Like
to see that for Europe, but
it's
I'd
and
love to see it if done well for the
yeah,
story.
cause Chihira's my favorite character, but Yura is like my number two, and I think because Chihira's our main character, so I expect there's gonna be like big payoffs for him because I trust Hokuzono, and all the prerequisites like information or build up, like it's there for Chihiro. The payoffs gonna be coming down the line. I know that. With Yura, he's a blank canvas in the terms of is he, he's painted as the main villain, but there's a ton that we just do not know in this story, and it makes me think that Hokuzono has different plans, and he's just kind of a red herring of a red herring final boss. Like we're gonna focus on him, but there's something bigger at play.
Yeah, and that's why uh, like I would hate for this story to be like like short, right? Like anything less than 200 chapters or I don't know, right? But to me, there's just so much to kind of really play with here, and like there's just really a lot, like and like you said, there's just a lot we don't know yet, right? Like there's so much lore that can be explored if Hokuzono wants to explore it and thinks it's relevant to the story he wants to tell, right? But I would love to go back to kind of like the Seitei War. I would love to know more about like the Hishaku, right? And Hatshaku and because even something as subtle as like his design, like it's like earlier today, I was wondering, like, I had completely forgotten because we haven't seen this dude in a minute. Like, oh yeah, this dude has like a scar over his eye, which we actually did kind of talk about when we saw him from a weird angle a couple of chapters ago that I didn't recognize him. And like, dude, I would love to see like for that to be like something that took place during the Seitei War. And then once again, this might just be like me like headcanon or just kind of as a fan really thinking a lot into things or whatever.
You're deep theory
Yeah,
crafting. Deep
because that
theory crafting.
that could very well like not even be ever touched on in the story. Like this guy could be killed off next chapter like he's nothing. You just never really know. But I see a lot of potential in the story really for like you said for this to be kind of like not really fast track to where Yura gets the Magatsumi, like quickly or whatever, and like there being another just 50 chapters before the story ends or something. So I don't know. I guess my thoughts are a bit all over the place in that last point, but I guess what I'm trying to say is I don't want the story to be over anytime soon because there's still a lot to explore here.
I do think that this very well could be like the halfway point of the story, though. I could see that happening, where
Yeah,
the story wraps up like 150 to 180 chapters. That's what I personally think. The other two swordsmen, like, sure, don't get me wrong. We talked about how this series could be about the Chihiro facing like his father's, I don't want to say mistakes, but his father's decisions, and like basically facing the past, but with his own like view and his own justice, his own answer for how to fix it. Kunoshige's answer was the enchanted blades are what the world needs right now to end the like invasion, quote unquote, if they really did invade first. But the Shikoku invaded them. Kunoshige made the swords in response to like make sure that they don't lose. You can't really be mad at him for that in a sense. It's the handling of the enchanted blades after the war that's the issue. And Chihiro's answer isn't to save the blades. He's already destroyed one. And I talked to you a little bit about this, but Chihiro cares more about the connection to his father than the connection to Kunoshige, the hero. And I think that, but that being said, Hokuzono could still just almost off-screen the other enchanted swordsmen. We don't know them. We don't have no like emotional ties to them, really. We haven't met them yet. I'm not saying he will, but I'm saying Hokuzono just has a wide, span to like choose which direction he's gonna go. But one thing I will say though, I'm confident that he knows what he wants to do. It doesn't feel like he's just stumbling around.
Yeah. No, that's for sure.
Yeah, but I mean that's it for me though. I mean it's pretty. This chapter was crazy, but it wasn't. There's no. It was everything was kind of like condensed in the terms of where the action happened.
Yeah, no, and yeah, no, I think this chapter was a solid. Like I said, to me, I can't. I always have kind of trouble ranking chapters, rating them, or comparing them.
We don't even need to rank chapters to be fair, because it's like recency bias as well. Because like,
yeah,
that's why like reviewing arcs, I think, is always better than chapter reviews, personally.
Yeah, no, for sure. But to me, like I said, this chapter keeps up the hot streak of like really solid chapters. Like this is like honestly a high paced story, so you might very well. I would be surprised if like you're pretty much on the money in terms of this being more or less the halfway point of the story. I would love it for like it to be like much longer than that, but I also got to be realistic, and this story has been checking all the boxes since it started, so I can't really ask for anything else. I have really nothing much else to say. I just really wanted to like ask you, now that we're pretty much on the topic, how many arcs do you think the story has left in? Like I know you said this is like the halfway point, but in terms of major arcs like the Rakuzaichi and now with like the sword bearer assassination, like do you think we just like one more arc or?
Oh no, I'm probably thinking three or
four. 3 or 4?
Because this arc is long. This is the longest arc in the story so far. And I don't think every arc's going to be like... Because think about it, Sojo's arc was short. It's like under 20 chapters.
Yeah.
But I'm thinking 3 or 4.
Yeah, I would say 3. Because like I said, I would love for the story to be like fucking 300 chapters, whatever. But yeah, I think 3 is kind of more or less that sweet spot. Maybe even 2, man. Like at the fucking rate that. Cause like if Yura gets the fucking Magatsumi in the next 15 chapters, bro, or whatever, like however like this arc ends up kind of going down, will to me kind of give us a better perspective of how much would be left in the story potentially. You never
He,
know.
yeah, he could start the malediction in
Yeah.
Japan. And it could be more of a survival story
Oh,
at that
I
point where
love it.
Chihiro's,
I love it.
and then he gets the other two enchanted blade swordsmen, and then it's about
A
them
new
like
war,
doing with the
a new
yeah,
war
with the
arc.
other enchanted
Imagine,
blades,
bro.
something, yeah.
I love that. Now, see, I love that.
Or maybe, hey, maybe my goat Yura is actually a good guy, and he just wants to bring he wants to revert Shikoku back to its natural state.
Oh shit! I was about to say,
That's
let's.
some
Okay, time we get out of here.
that's some cope. Yeah, we'll say that for another time.
No, but I told you just to end on this note. Like, yeah, I definitely love to go to Shikoku in the story.
Oh
So
yeah, like the final battle,
Ooh.
Shikoku, where they just go all out.
Master Swordsman, yeah, bro.
Ooh, Chihiro with the Magatsumi. Let him have an evil arc. No, I'm just playing. I'm just
Let's get
playing.
out of
Let's.
here.
Let's. I'm not cooking. I'm not. But all right, y'all. I appreciate y'all. Staying for the whole video,
Sir.
listening. The support so far has been cool. We don't. We just do this because we enjoy talking about Kagurabachi. We enjoy each other's company. But it is nice to see a warm reception so far,
For sure.
on YouTube. So we appreciate y'all. And Dice, any last thoughts?
Nah, man. Yeah, it's just what you said. I second that. I really appreciate everybody sticking around and listening to us just yap about this amazing story. So.
Yeah, and check out Dice's new video. He has a Invincible video.
Appreciate that, bro.
Yes, sir. But that'll do it for us. Until next time.
Peace.
Peace.